Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and today I'm doing the third installment in my series of reading the best short stories of the 20th century. I'm trying to find the 20 best short stories in literature and ranking them roughly from best to worst. Now, what I'm doing is I am just going to read the short stories. I am not going to get into a whole lot of in-depth analysis because on some of these short stories, there are lots and lots of criticism and comments about what the short story actually means. In the previous week, I did James Joyce's The Dead, and lots of people were commenting about how much is going on under the substructure of that short story. I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to substructure. I'm just going to rank the stories on how they work as stories. There's going to be a little bit of analysis, but not too much. My idea in reading these short stories is not to impress a college professor with just how smart I am and how in-depth I can disengage the text and get to the root of the real meaning. So what short story have I read? I have read The Hunger Artist by Franz Kafka. This was originally published in 1922 in German. And it is the story of a man who is a hunger artist. He's been a hunger artist for apparently a few decades because apparently the story is looking back and it says there used to be a great fad about hunger artists and about how the mass of crowds would gather around and watch this man basically not eating. He would be putting himself in sort of a circus tent, a circus jail or cage, and people would just watch him not eating, lying in his straw bed with a clock ticking down how much time he has not been eating. And according to the short story, it was wildly popular at one time. But the fad for fasting and the watching of fasters has ended. And the poor hunger artist is still trying to maintain his art. But he becomes completely neglected and completely forgotten until one day, one of the caretakers of the, let's just say, carnival, walks into the cell and says, "What is this empty cage?" and discovers a very emaciated hunger artist who always wanted to be admired for his fasting, and he basically perishes. And so what does this all mean? There is a whole lot of commentary on this, and this is why I don't want to go into it because lots of people have lots of varying different opinions. Some people think that the hunger artist is essentially a Christ-like figure. That may be a little too much for me, but I like this as a story. I originally read this in a college classroom. Yes, impressing college professor. And it was the philosophy of literature, where we read literature as philosophy and discussing what was Franz Kafka actually trying to discuss. Now, the actual classroom discussions has long faded from my memory. I think this is a story of basically an exhibition because the hunger artist does nothing but internal. And Franz Kafka apparently just had a very internal life. And this is compared to the end of the story when the hunger artist is swept away with his straw and replaced by a panther who is amazing. And I'm just going to read essentially the last few sentences of this short story. The panther was all right. The food he liked was brought to him without hesitation by the attendants. He seemed not even to miss his freedom, his noble body, furnished almost to the bursting point with all that it needed, seemed to carry freedom around with it too. Somewhere in his jaws it seemed to lurk, and the joy of life streamed with such ardent passion from his throat. For the onlookers, it was not easy to stand the shock of it, but they braced themselves, crowded around the cage. It did not ever want to move away. We have the image of the hunger artist, fasting, quietly thinking, not doing much. And compare that to the panther. What a magnificent beast. And what is that saying about where the world is going? Did we once contemplate more? And do we admire that contemplation more? But now we just admire the exuberant, the panther, the wild. I think that is somewhat true. Just look at the culture that we have today. Do we admire people for their thoughts, for their contemplations? Or do we admire the athletes, the singer, those kind of people? That's where the hunger artist brings me. And I think we are a bit of at a loss. I think there is something to admire about the hunger artist for his fasting. And the panther, while maybe fascinating, maybe a little bit less so. I rank the hunger artist first, then to build a fire, and then the dead. Next week, who knows where that story will be ranked? I have an idea, but I am not sure. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.